But that's what I would do. I would divide everything by 2.
Are we live?
Are we allowed to divide both sides of an equation?
No, I said are we live? Like on live television.
I couldn't get it to work yesterday, so I'm going back the old-fashioned way. So
Record it and
it's
then
recorded and then I'll post it, yeah.
So we weren't live yesterday.
We were live last time, yeah, I got it to work, but yesterday I couldn't get it to work, so
I watched the first video.
Did ya?
Yeah.
I had like 5 views, so.
I watched it like 5 times.
So we finished now.
Alright, so x squared minus 10x plus 2 equals 0. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
So now we're going to complete the square. Here we go. Got to move that 2 to the other side. And go ahead and leave a space here because you know you need to fill in that gap with a number. What's that number?
45.
And why do we know it's 25?
If you take the half of 10.
Half of 10 squared. What?
If you took it and divided it by 2, would you get -5? Or you don't do that?
No, you do. But
Oh.
and then you square it. So what's -5 times
Oh,
-5?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're exactly right, Evan. When I take half of this number, I really get -5, but I really never say that because I'm going to square it, and the negative's going to disappear anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this number will always be added. It's always going to be a positive because it's gotten by squaring something. So that's always going to be positive. Now, when you write your parentheses, that's where the negative comes in. Because this is going to be x minus 5. The sign in the parentheses is always that sign. So if that's a minus, that's going to be a minus every time. And that's going to equal what, 23?
Yep.
So I'll square root both sides. X minus 5 equals plus or minus the square root of 23.
Do you want to separate those like you did in the last problem?
You can if you want. You don't have to. You can write x equals 5 plus or minus root 23. Or you can say x minus 5 equals the square root of 23. X minus 5 equals negative the square root of 23. So when I move my 5 over, 5 plus root 23, 5 minus root 23. So you can write 2 separates, or you can write it all together. It makes no difference. The only time it makes a difference is, like in our first example, and I don't remember exactly what the numbers were, but if you have, x minus 2 squared equals 49. When you square root both sides, you don't want to write 2 plus or minus 7 because these can be added together. So then you're going to separate it and write 2 separate answers. But with a radical, you can't combine them anyway, so it doesn't matter. Good? All right, next section says quadratic formula. Now, in the old days, your teachers gave you the quadratic formula. Now that you are grown-ups, you're supposed to know the quadratic formula. So, who knows it? Evan?
-b plus or minus square root of b plus
Squared?
Okay, yeah, square plus
Minus?
minus 4 times a times c over 2 times a.
Exactly. There's the quadratic formula. And when we're using it, these A, B's, and C's are the numbers in your quadratic equation, right? This is the standard form of a quadratic equation. So A is the coefficient on x squared, B is the coefficient on x, A and C is the plane number. Notice that if you're going to use the quadratic formula, your equation has to be set equal to 0. You gotta have the A, B, and C all over here, so the equation is gonna be set equal to 0. So let's look at the next one here and see what's going on. So we have x squared plus 8x minus 9 equals 0. So what's my A? 1. My B is?
8.
And my C is?
-9.
Negative 9. Don't forget the negatives. Now you don't have to write this down, but it's a good idea. It keeps you straight if you have it written down. Alright, so now we just plug it in. Easy peasy. Here we go. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared. Now be careful. B squared is 64, right?
Yep.
Minus 4 times 1 times negative 9 all over 2 times 1.
Yep.
Negative 8 plus or minus the square root of.
64 plus 36.
That's going to be 64 plus 36, right? Everybody catch the double negative?
Which is 100.
Which is 100. So negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 100. Oh, and the good news is the square root of 100 is 10. So negative 8 plus or minus 10.
And you can divide by 2.
We can. We could also just do, alright, what do we got? Negative 8 plus 10.
Oh, yeah.
Negative 8 plus 10.
Negative 2.
Negative 8 plus 10. 2. Divided by 2 is 1. Negative 8 minus 10. Divided by 2.
Negative 9.
So my answers are 1 and negative 9. What answers would I have gotten if I would have completed the square?
1 and negative 9.
1 and negative 9. What if I would have factored
1 and negative
1 and negative 9? The answers, it doesn't matter which way you do it. The answers are the answers, right? Alright, try the next one on your own. Quadratic formula. Try B on your own. Anybody done?
Yep.
Do we match?
Yep.
Negative 3 and positive 1/2.
Yes.
I'm hearing some affirmation. Feeling good about myself right now. Are you feeling good about yourselves?
Yep.
questions about that?
Can you not simplify it down,
I got,
or? Oh, I didn't look at it.
and I got 1/2. So here are my two answers. I got -3 and positive 1/2. We good? Can we move on? Because the next one's gonna have something a little more exciting. Now let's see what's exciting about the next one. Has anybody worked ahead and you see what's exciting already?
Yes.
What's exciting about this guy?
Negative square root.
Uh-oh, we're gonna have a negative under a radical maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. Let's go ahead. Here we go. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Do you guys like using the quadratic formula? Oh, you don't? Oh my, it's my favorite. I'd rather do the quadratic formula than anything in terms of quadratics. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. So underneath that radical, I'm going to have 9 minus 56, which is -3 plus or minus the square root of
Negative 47.
negative 47.
Ooh, imaginary numbers.
Oh, God.
Yes.
No.
Love imaginary numbers.
So I heard somebody earlier say this problem was going to have no solution. This problem has no real solution, but it has an answer. When we take the square root of a negative, we have what we call imaginary units, right? And to indicate that, do you remember what to do? You
Take
just,
an eye out.
this negative, the square root of the negative becomes an I, so we would say -3 plus or minus I root 47 over 4. And the square root of 47 does not simplify,
So we're done.
so we're done. That's it. That is your answer.
Wait, does it have to be a cursive type?
As long as it doesn't get confused with a 1. We want to make sure it doesn't look like a 1. Like if you put a regular I and your dot was not visible, it would look like a 1. So it's probably, I don't know, you normally use cursive I's, but you can use whatever kind of I you want as long as it looks like an I. Okay? Is that all right? All right, let's do one more, and then we are going to do a couple quick review problems. So here we go, one more. What do we have to remember to bring with us on Monday?
Calculator.
A calculator and our math league money. It's $4 this year. And if you complain and whine, I'm absolutely gonna rip your heads off. This is the 38th year for Math League. It's been $3 for 38 years. And I can't keep it at $3, so it's going to $4 this year. I'm sorry, $4. All right, everybody's gonna pay me $4 on Monday because you're all gonna join Math League. Because even if you've never done it before, it's a once in a lifetime experience. You must do it. All right. So we're not arguing about it. We're just gonna join Math League.
It's rough.
No. We put out the email that said we're signing up from the 20th to the 28th.
Oh yeah, we already saw the people that tried to sign up for
Huh?
early. I said we already saw what happened to the people that tried to sign up for
That's
early.
what cool people do.
Yeah. All right, so here we go. Quadratic formula one more time. X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Is this one going to have an I?
Yes.
Yes. Wait, no.
I'm not thinking that for it.
Okay. The only way we'll have an I
Is if the square root
is if under here we get a negative answer. Now what am I gonna get this time under here? I have 25
13.
minus 12.
Yep.
So that's going to be a positive 13. Now, I'm not going to be able to simplify my answer at all, but I'm not going to have an I. It's just going to be negative 5 plus or minus root 13 over 6.
That's our answer?
That's our answer. Now, quick comment. Once in a while, when you do these, you will get an answer that looks like this. X equals negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 2 root 15 over 8. Now, it's possible when you work it out that you might get something that looks like that. If you do, you are required to reduce the fraction. If there is a common factor, a GCF, in all three positions, notice, not inside the radical, but outside the radical. If there is a common factor for all three of these positions, you are required to get rid of it. If there is a common factor in only two of those positions, you don't do anything, you're done. If you're going to reduce your problem, you have to be able to do it in all three spots. If you can't do it in all three spots, then you just can't do it. All right, quick review problem before you all head out. I know you're just so anxious to escape. We have a long time till we get back together. It's Monday, so make sure you're ready on Monday. Would you write the equation of the line using slope-intercept form? Would you write the equation of the line with a slope of 4 containing the point 4, 3? Quickly, you don't get out of here till you do this. I got a slope of 4 and a point 4, 3, and I want to know the slope-intercept form of the line. 3 equals 4
Negative
times
13.
4 plus b.
Negative 13.
But that's not the answer. The answer is y
Y
equals
4x minus 13.
4x minus 13. That is the slope-intercept form of the line. All right. We'll see you for Monday. Have a good weekend, my friend.
What period is it?
B.
I don't know.
B.
Sign up for that one on Monday. Here we go. Bye. 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 If you're lucky. Oh, Magnus.
Look at me, I'm 17 and I already have back problems.
What?
Look at me, I'm 17 and I already have back problems.
That's bad.